Let me. Okay. So, guys, I have informed earlier that before starting, let me make sure that the session is recorded. You need to tell me this thing because sometimes I forget, right? Okay. So once you install the database management system, then you need to install SQL Server Management Studio or SSMS. Using SSMS, we can interact with the database. We can write the code. We can write the storage procedure. We can execute the storage procedure. It is also provide some SQL profiler using which we can monitor what query is executed on the database, on which user the query is going to be executed. We can create a new user. We can provide some constraint, right, to the user that the user can perform only insert operation, can perform only select operation. The user cannot perform some other operation. So these kind of things we can provide, right? So this is SQL Server Management Studio. So once you install the SSMS, right? So as this is what I can say, the course is going to contain two things. One is ASP.NET Core MVC, another one is ASP.NET Core Web API, right? So as we are going to develop Web API, so in order to test the Web API, by default Visual Studio, or you can say ASP.NET Core, provide the support of Swagger, right? Using which not only you can document your APIs, but also you can test. Apart from that, two important tools nowadays more people are using. One is Postman, another one is Fiddle. So I will show you how you can download and install Postman, how and from where you can download and install Fiddler, right? Once you start developing ASP.NET Core Web API, we will use this tool. But I will show you from where and how you need to install Postman and Fiddler. So these are the essential software that are required to install on your machine in order to start developing ASP.NET Core Web API development, right? Apart from this,
Uh,
you can also install some additional software or tools like Git, TFS, some API documentation, Swagger, testing framework like this, XUnit, NUnit, MSTest, right? These are the additional software. If you want, then you can also use. So now I'm going to show you how you can install all these software into your environment. So as on my machine, I have installed Windows operating system. So everything, whatever the configuration I'm going to do with Linux, with the Windows operating system. And on your machine, based on the operating system, you will do the same thing. Any question from anyone?
Sir, we are using SQL Server, Postgres, and SQLite. What about Oracle database? Can we connect the Oracle database with the
Oracle
.NET?
currently Entity Framework Core not supported Oracle database, but in future it might support.
Yes, we have some libraries that in earlier
For
version of
that
ASP.NET.
purpose, for that purpose, you need to use ADO.NET Core. You can't use the Entity Framework Core.
Oh, so Oracle is not supported at all.
No, no, no. What I'm saying, Oracle is supported, but not with Entity Framework Core. And here I'm going to
Oh,
explain Entity Framework Core. For that purpose, I have provided the list of database. I'm not provided Oracle because it is not supported with Entity Framework Core.
oh,
Clear?
okay.
In your office also, you can see they are not going to use Oracle. So what database they are using? They might be using MySQL or PostgreSQL or Microsoft SQL,
Okay,
right? Okay.
fine.
Any question from
Hello,
anyone?
sir.
Yes.
Can you tell me overview of entity framework? What is entity framework? Just overview
So
for understanding.
so why you need to know Entity Framework overview at this time?
Sorry, are you going to explain in later?
So this is a completely a different chapter altogether. If you see for Entity Framework, I'm going to take at least 10 classes.
Okay, then it's okay. No problem. Thank
Right.
you.
So if you look at because I don't want to spend time on such topics, right? Which we are I'm going to explain in detail. See Entity Framework Core, right? So how many chapter? 27, right? Then again
Okay,
you can
okay.
see Entity Framework Core in Web API also. So I'm going to discuss this thing in detail. So without Entity Framework, how you can perform our database operations?
Can you share
Okay, then
this document in the Telegram, sir?
So yeah, document I'm going to share now. Already I said whatever session I'm taking, at the end of the session I'm going to share the document. Yesterday also I have shared the two documents what I explained in the classroom.
Oh no, this one, the chapters.
This
I
this
mean
list of chapter,
topics.
this one.
Yeah, yeah, this
Yeah,
one, yeah.
already shared to each and everyone. And I think you also have that one, na? In the Telegram group. Already I shared the course syllabus to each and everyone. Even I have uploaded the PDF version as well as what I can say, the document doc format also.
I mean, you shared this one in before group,
Yes,
not
yes, yes.
on the.
Before the start of the session, right? Whenever the people started joining that other Telegram group, not this one. In that group, I have already shared the course syllabus. And even in the first demo sessions, right? Did you attend my first demo session?
Yes, I attend.
So in that demo session only, I have discussed all the concept, right? So whatever I'm going to discuss, right?
Okay.
This is already shared. Right, even if you do not have, just go through the website, and in the website also I have provided all this list of topics whatever I'm going to discuss, right? Okay,
Already it is
so
present in our group right now.
sorry.
Already it is present in the group, this group. We can go and
Yeah,
see the
so
file.
in this Telegram group it is not available, but earlier I have sent personally to each and everyone to their WhatsApp number that this is the course syllabus, right? In the even though I have uploaded this in the Telegram group also. So did you get the PDF for the ASP.NET course syllabus from your WhatsApp number? I already sent to each and everyone. If anybody not get the PDF file, they can ping me. Even today, I'm going to also upload the course syllabus in the new Telegram group. Okay. So now we are going to start discussing how we can download and install Visual Studio 2020. Right. Currently, .NET. So as we are going to use .NET 6, which is having long-term support, and .NET 6 is supported by Visual Studio 2022. So if you have not installed Visual Studio 2022, so it is recommended to download and install the latest version of Visual Studio, which is nothing but 22. What is Visual Studio? As we already discussed, it is the integrated development environment provided by Microsoft. It is the one-stop solution for all kind of applications. Don't think that using Visual Studio you can develop only ASP.NET Core web application. You can also develop desktop applications, right? So you can use this Visual Studio ID for both the desktop as well as your web application. Apart from coding, so what this ID brings together is nothing but a rich user interface, graphical interface. It provides the support for compiler so that on the go it will compile your code, right? On the go it will compile your code. Means one, if you do any kind of a mistake, immediately it will give you the error, right? So code compilation tools to provide source control tools like TFS, like Git. You can also use, you can install any third-party libraries like Bootstrap, jQuery, right? You can easily install and many more features. Now let us proceed and see how we can download and install Visual Studio, right? So basically what you need to do, you need to go to this URL, right? Visual Studio Microsoft.com download. So once you go to this URL,
The community edition.
sorry,
Community edition we have to install or a professional one?
I'm going to explain everything, don't worry. Which edition, what are the different edition, right? I'm going to explain. Right. So once you visit the once you visit this, what I can say, once you visit the above URL, right, then this page will come. What is the latest version? That is what you will see in this screen, right? So Visual Studio 2022 is the latest one. And here you can see we are having three different versions. One is community, one is professional, and another one is enterprise. As I told earlier, Visual Studio is only available for Windows and Mac operating system. It is not available for Linux operating system. This community, professional enterprise, whatever you are saying, this is for Windows operating system, you can see this diagram here. This is Windows, and Visual Studio for Mac. If you want, then you can use this one. And Visual Studio Code is available for Windows, Mac, and what I can say, Linux. You can see. So Visual Studio Code is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. Visual Studio is available for Windows and Mac only. So based on your operating system, you need to download the correct one, right? So what is the difference? See, currently you can see we are having three flavor. One is community, professional, and enterprise. So this is a free download. This is a free trial. This is free trial, right? Suppose you are a student, right, or you are a developer. You just want to learn something. So for learning purpose, you do not need to use the professional or enterprise edition. Community edition is fine, and in this community edition, everything, right, whatever available in the professional and enterprise edition, everything will be available within this community edition, right? So, and if you are working for a small company, right, then you can go with the professional edition. And if you are a big team, right, and in the big company you are working, then in that case you can go with the enterprise edition, right? So here you can see it is basically preferable for small teams, and this is team of any size. And free trial means they will give you a trial for 90 days. In the 90 days, you do not need to pay anything. Up to 90 days, you need to pay. So as for our purpose, this community edition is fine. So you can click on this free download button. Once you click on this free download button, right, then you will see one exe is going to be downloaded, .exe. So this exe is nothing but you can say it is a exe file, executable file. And as we know, for .NET, for Windows environment, it is going to be the the desktop application we are going to install, it is going to in the form of a .exe. So once you download this exe, then you just need to click here, or the other option is you can go and double click on this Visual Studio setup, right? I have already installed Visual Studio on my machine. So what you need to do, you need to click or double click. Once you click or double click, then what it will install, right? If you are installing for the first time, then you will see that Visual Studio installer is going to install, right? So this Visual Studio installer, it is the tool that is going to install the necessary software what you are going to use with your Visual Studio to develop different kind of application. So once the Visual Studio installer is open, so what you need to do, you just need to click on the continue button, right? Once you click on the continue button, it will install the Visual Studio installer. Once the Visual Studio installer installed, right? I'm talking if you are installing for the first time, this Visual Studio installer is going to install, and this Visual Studio installer is going to install the Visual Studio. So guys, you have to remember two things. Visual Studio is different. Visual Studio installer is different. What is the purpose of a Visual Studio? Visual Studio is one IDE, right? Using that IDE, you can start developing different kind of web application. And on your machine, you can install a different version of a Visual Studio. For example, if you look at my machine, right? Currently, I'm installing Visual Studio 2017, 2022, even the Visual Studio 2019 is also installed on my machine, which is not showing here because I'm not using that frequently, but Visual Studio 2019 is also installed. But what is Visual Studio installer? Only one installer. And this Visual Studio installer, if you open, then you will see that it is going to manage all the version of Visual Studio. See, 2017 is there, 2022 is there, 2019 is there. So Visual Studio installer is going to install Visual Studio. Visual Studio is the ID using which we can develop the application. So Visual Studio installer is not the ID. Using Visual Studio installer, you can't develop application. For developing application, Visual Studio is required. But to install Visual Studio installer is required, right? So if you are installing Visual Studio for the first time, first of all, it will install the Visual Studio installer. And once the Visual Studio installer is installed, right, then you will see this screen, right? So what is this screen is all about ASP.NET web application development and the desktop development, right? For example, if you are already installing Visual Studio 2022, right, then you just click on the modify button. Once you click on the modify button, then you can see ASP.NET web development, and desktop .NET desktop development. So these two checkboxes should be selected before installing the Visual Studio. What this ASP.NET Web Development is going to provide? It is going to provide the ASP.NET Web Application Development Framework. ASP.NET Framework means what? Now, if you install this, then for developing the web application, whatever the things required, that are going to be installed. And if you select this one, .NET a desktop development, then what will happen? Now, for developing a desktop application, right? Desktop application means you can develop WP application, you can develop Windows Form application, you can develop console application, and using C Sharp, Visual Basic, F Sharp, right? So using .NET and .NET framework, right? So both options are there. So you have to select these two at least. Once you select these two, here already I have installed, so you will see one down install button. For example, I just select this one. See, once I select this one, currently it is showing me the modify button. But if you are installing for the first time, it will show you the download button like this, right? Suppose in this case, you can see I have selected this checkbox, I have selected this checkbox. So you can see in your machine, it is going to show you the install button. So once you click on the install button, wait for some time, it will start downloading and installing. And guys, remember, while you are installing, please make sure install while downloading. That means what? Now whatever files required, right, it will not only download right from the internet, but also it will install them immediately, right? And based on your internet speed, it will take some more time to less time, right? Depending on the speed of your internet. So once you install the Visual Studio, then it will ask you to sign in. Sign in means what? You should have a Microsoft account. If you do not have, you can create a Microsoft account using your Gmail ID also. You can also create. You just need to sign in. Even though if you do not sign in, that is no problem. Later you can also sign in. So once you installation is completed, once the sign is completed, then it will open the Visual Studio like this. See, if you are opening the Visual Studio for the first time, right, then it will going to be like this. First time it is going to show like this. So here what you need to do, you need to select the what I can say, the color theme, right? Theme in the sense what kind of editor or what kind of a Visual Studio editor you want to see. You want to use dark edition, blue edition, blue extra concept, light edition. So most of the developer who are working in the industry, they are preferring this dark edition because the dark, if you are using dark, then uh, what I can say, the error will not be that visible, right? But as in this course, I am going to use this blue edition because it will clearly going to show you the code whatever I am going to write, because dark is very what I can say. I generally prefer to use blue edition while I am taking the sessions, but for the development time, I am going to use the dark edition. So, but it is not mandatory. Whatever theme you want, you can use, right? And that's it. Once you have installed it, now you are ready to develop ASP.NET application using Visual Studio. And once you open the Visual Studio, right, then the screen is something like this. For example, I'm going to open Visual Studio 2022.
How long it will take to install the complete? Hello.
As I mentioned, it depends on your internet speed.
Means 1 hour. I can assume it will take maximum minimum 1 hour, right?
No, no. So depending upon the internet, if your internet speed is high, right? If you are using Wi-Fi 15 Mbps, 30 Mbps, within 15 to 20 minutes also it is going to install.
And what is the minimum hardware required? 8 GB RAM will work, or more than
No,
that it will require?
if 2 GB RAM also going to be work. Hardware means, as I mentioned, so it will going to take some GB of memory in the C drive, right? You should have that much of memory, right?
And the
Currently, you
hard
can
disk
see.
space, it requires.
So hard disk, why it is hard disk? It is going to install in the C drive, right? You can see it is taking 8.06 GB, right? You should have space inside your C drive. And that basically depends. See, if you are working with 2 GB RAM, then also it is fine. But problem is the speed is going to be less. You should have
In
multi-core
2
processor so
GB,
that
in 2 GB it will be very, very slow. I know that.
obviously,
But
so that's why people are preferring. So these are some what I can say. You should know this thing. You are a working professional. You should know what is the importance of a GB, right? What processor you need to use. You should know
Pura
all
is
these
fine.
things.
Fine.
That depend upon you. Any core, any processor, that is fine. But if you have more memory, if you are installing SSD, right? If you are having more RAM size, more good i5, i7 processor, then performance will be better or performance will be good. Otherwise, it will be slow down your development, not only development but also running, right? So
So
once you open,
SSD will be good choice, right? SSD will be good choice for this.
so if you know this thing, then why you are asking SSD is good? You know, then why you are asking me this thing? You are working professional, you know all these things. You are just cross-checking whether I know or not, right?
No, not like that. I didn't
Then
work with the .NET Core. That's what I asked.
right? So if required, then I will tell them what is the minimum things is required, what is the maximum thing is required for installing Visual Studio IDE. See, what is this IDE? It is nothing. It is just one IDE. IDE means integrated development environment, nothing else. Just like you install one exe, right? WhatsApp app you install on your machine. For that purpose, did you check whatever the minimum requirement? No, we never checked. We install some kind of application on our desktop application. For that purpose, we are not checking anything. What is required? Installing this software, you at least you should have a 10 GB free memory space on your C drive. Right? Otherwise,
You're
this
right.
is not going to be installed.
I,
That's it.
I think, Pranay, I think this information you will get easily from the internet, like Googling. Sham, yeah,
Yes,
you
yes.
will get all this information for internet simply typing whatever the configuration is required. Then you can easily get all this information.
Okay.
Right. So even though
Yeah.
in the Microsoft side, in the Microsoft side, they are not specifying whatever the minimum information is required. Right? For installing SQL Server, minimum information is required. Why? Because that is the database. And for that purpose, I'm going to tell you what is the minimum configuration is required. And this is just a ID. ID means integrated development environment. Using this ID, we are only going to develop the application, nothing else. Right? Once you develop the application, then you need to host this application into the server. And in that server, you need to check, right? What is the RAM installed inside that server? What is what I can say, the CPU processor time is there. For development, nothing is required. But for database, we need to install database where the data is going to be stored. For that purpose, minimum configuration is required. And that configuration I'm going to tell you. I'm going to show you that these are the minimum configuration required and not for me. I'm not saying this. This is said by the MSDN. But this information you will never find from anywhere. Right? This is the Microsoft official documentation page. Did they mention anything? What is the minimum size RAM or anything required? Nothing like this. But while installing
Okay.
SQL Server, I will tell this thing. If Microsoft is not giving this information, right? From where I will collect? Because they are not giving, because they know this is just a IT. Even though without installing Visual Studio, you can start developing the application. As I mentioned, how many options we have? We have Visual Studio Code. It's the lightweight version of the Visual Studio. It doesn't require 8 GB or 10 GB, but still you can develop the application. Using .NET Core CLB, without installing any ID, we can also develop a .NET Core application. Because these are ID, these are not this will not make any issue. But what is required whenever you host your application into the production server, right? So in that case, you need to check what is the configuration in the production server. Based on your configuration, right? If you are having 2 GB, 5 GB, 8 GB, i3 processor, right? The SSD is not installed, then the server is not going to handle thousands of requests at the same time. The server will be down. For that purpose, you need to think about the server configuration, how I can improve the speed, how I can use multi-core processors, right? How whether it is good to use SSD, if it is required, and what is the size, whether I need to go with a 16 GB RAM or 32 GB RAM, right? Those kind of things you need to think whenever you are hosting the application. For ID, it is not required. What is required? You should have that enough space in your drive, right, to start. To install the ID. So Visual Studio ID. So don't think that using this Visual Studio you can only develop web application. Even the C++ application, C application, right? Even Java people, they can also develop using Visual Studio Code, right? Visual Studio Code is there. Java people are using this Visual Studio. If any kind of Angular application, right? Angular React application, they are using Visual Studio Code to develop the application. For developing purpose, we just need ID. For installing the ID, nothing is required. But while you are hosting the application, at that time you need to think about the server configuration. It's clear,
Yes.
right? So once the downloaded is completed, once you select the theme, right, then you need to create a new project, right? So by clicking on this create new project, right, that's it. And once you have installed Visual Studio, right, then you need to make sure that .NET 6 runtime should be installed, right? How you can make sure? Go to this.
Pranay,
Yes.
I have a doubt. Like you have shown me that 7.0. No? Can you show me that screenshot?
So
Yeah.
why
WebAssembly,
you are
what is?
preferring? Why you are preferring that screenshot? I'm showing you practically. This is
No,
the
no.
Visual Studio installer. Here it is showing
Yeah.
.NET 6 runtime, .NET 7 runtime. So
Yeah, got
basically,
it.
what?
That,
Yeah. So let
what?
me clear. Let me first explain. Then you will ask me what is this 6.0, 7.0? Why it is selected? Right. Let me first explain.
Yeah.
Then if you have query, then you can ask. See, as I
Yeah.
mentioned,
Sure.
what is the latest version of a .NET Core? Yesterday, I have shown you, right? .NET Framework 7.0 is the latest one. .NET 6.0 is the long-term support, right? .NET 8 is in the preview mode, correct? So as we are going to develop the application, right? So you can see .NET 6.0 is default selected as well as .NET 7.0. So basically this runtime, this 6.0 runtime, 7.0 runtime means what? Now you can develop application targeting .NET Framework 6.0, targeting .NET Framework 7.0, and by default this 7.0 is selected. Why? Because it is the latest one, right? And if you scroll down, you can see .NET SDK is also selected. So this SDK will install the required software to develop the application, and this .NET runtime, it is required to run your .NET Core application. And whenever you install whenever you download Visual Studio, right, Visual Studio automatically install this .NET runtime as well as .NET SDK. If you are targeting .NET Framework 7, right, then this .NET 7.0 runtime will come into the picture to run your application. If you are developing application using .NET Framework 6.0, then this .NET 6.0 runtime will come into the picture, right? Suppose example, I'm creating a new application, and while I'm creating the new application, you can see we have both options. .NET 6.0 by default selected. Why? Because it is providing the long-term support. Even though if you want, then you can also use .NET 7.0. And this is possible because by default, whenever we are installing, 7.0 is also get installed into our machine, right? So you have both the options. Whatever option you want, you can use, and that runtime is going to run your .NET Core application, right? Yeah. Now you can ask your question.
Yeah, I have a doubt. Like .NET 6.0 WebAssembly build tool, it is for like a browser applications.
Yeah, Blazor is something different which you can also develop using .NET 6.0, right? So see if you come here, right?
WebAssembly.
Right, Blazor
That
WebAssembly.
6.0 WebAssembly.
Yeah. So you can use Blazor is just another flavor to develop a web application like ASP.NET Core web application. Blazor is something
Yeah.
different, right? Okay, if I open Visual
But
Studio.
WebAssembly build tool is also there as one of the installation. So it is for what is the purpose of that? I'm asking.
See,
WebAssembly. Is it for browser or what?
see, See, Blazor WebAssembly, a project template for creating a Blazor app that runs on WebAssembly and is optimally hosted by an ASP.NET Core. This template can be used for web app with dynamic. See, Blazor WebAssembly means what? Now, if you know, whenever we are writing any code in the C sharp, right? Then that C sharp is your backend application or front end application.
It's a backend.
Backend means that whatever code you written that is going to execute in the web browser or in the server.
It is going to be a web server. It will
Web
be.
server. But this Blazor WebAssembly, it provides that flexibility, right? That this WebAssembly
Yeah.
will
Like
allow
Flash.
you, right? This will allow you to execute your C# code on the client browser.
Yeah, plugin. Yeah, my question is, this 6.0 WebAssembly is for that purpose?
See, still I'm not 6.0 is not for if you are targeting 6.0, 7.0, no matter. Blazor is started, I think, from .NET Framework 3.
Yeah, .NET 6.0 WebAssembly build tools. After runtime environment, .NET 6.0 runtime, we have .NET 6.0 WebAssembly build tools. So I'm asking for that is for browser purpose.
I don't think so because exactly I have not checked what exactly the meaning of this 6.0 WebAssembly build tools.
Okay,
But
no problem.
yeah, I don't have that much of knowledge because there are many things is there, right?
Yeah.
I even don't know what are the exact meaning of all these things, right? So this is nothing but I don't think so. Build tools, this one is for 6.0 build tools. I
That's
don't
a
know
AOT
what
or
it is,
something. Yeah.
right? So once you
Okay,
install
got
these things, right? Then you need to start developing because to be frank, as I mentioned earlier, I never worked on Blazor, right? Even though a few people are asking at the time of while I'm taking some new concept from the student, right? What are the new things we need to add in this into this development, right? People ask me to include Blazor, and at that time only I mentioned that I never worked on Blazor, so I can't add Blazor into this course, right? I don't have any
Yeah, got it.
experience into Blazor. Got it? So you just need to select this .NET. Make sure this .NET 6.0 runtime, 7.0 runtime, and this .NET SDK must be installed, must be selected. Once you select this, then you need to install this one, right? So this is the process of downloading and installing Visual Studio, right? Once you install Visual Studio, right, then you need to check whether the Visual Studio is installed properly or not, right? So how you will see? See, currently this is nothing but .NET CLI command, right? Just to type .NET. Once I type .NET, it gives me how you can use the .NET CLI command. So what is the option? You have to write .NET space. You have to provide the options. And currently, what are the options available? /h/help /info /list SDK /list runtime. Suppose I want to write /help, right? So what you need to write .NET /help and press the enter button. See, once I press this thing, then you can say these are the different SDK commands, right? Add, build, clean, format. We will use all these commands, right? So to create a .NET Core application, to create a to build a .NET Core application, to run the .NET Core application, to create a new .NET Core application, you need to use new command. To run, you need to use the run command, right? To publish, you need to publish. To build, you need to add build command, right? So many commands are there, right? But what we want to check, we want to check the list of SDKs installed into your in our application. And here you can see /SDK. So just copy this and then just go here. Okay, let me clear this one. .NET. So CLS is for clearing the screen. /list /SDK. See, currently on my machine, what are the different what I can say framework .NET Core framework install. .NET SDK install is nothing but 2.1, 2.2, 3.1, 6.0, and 7.0. Right? And if you want to see what are the list of runtimes installed, right? I never remember this command because they are provided the intelligence. Only type the .NET, it will give you the list of command. From there, you can use the all these things, right? So you can see the different runtime what are installed into our application is nothing but this. Yeah. So we are going to use this runtime for .NET 6 application and this runtime for .NET 7.0 applications, right? So these are the list of runtime installed into our application, and these are the list of SDK installed into our application. And here you can see different runtime because we are going to develop different kind of application. Desktop application is there, Windows application is there, .NET Core Web application is there, ASP.NET Core application is there, right? So, but different application, different runtime is there, and those runtime is going to run your .NET Core application, which is developed using these SDKs. Clear, guys? If,
Sir,
if you, sorry,
I do have a question, sir.
yes, please.
So while installing .NET SDK, you only selected .NET SDK, right? So
Yes.
how are we able to get 6.0 and 7.2 SDKs? Like,
Let me tell you. So currently in my machine, don't you are getting confused. So by default, 7.0 and 6.0 going to be installed. I have installed this thing separately, right? As I mentioned on my machine, right? I have installed a different Visual Studio version, starting with 2017, 2019, 2022, and whenever I'm installing the Visual Studio, whatever the latest one, at that time that latest SDK is going to be installed. And coming to this 6.0, I have installed it separately. That's why you can see here. Now I will show you in the next step. I'm going to show you. Suppose you install Visual Studio 2022, and in that case you are only seeing this 7.0.3.306 SDK. You are not able to see this one. Then how you are going to install this .NET 6.0 SDK? That is what I'm going to show you in the next step.
thank you,
Right?
sir.
Right, whenever you are installing Visual Studio, the latest one is going to be installed. If you want to install any older framework, then how you are going to install, that is what I'm going to show you next. And suppose you install Visual Studio and you are not seeing this 6.0.NET SDK, then what is the next step? Next, I'm going to show you how you can install .NET SDK.
7.0.203, that is latest one, sir?
7.0.306 is the latest one, right? If you remember, I have mentioned you what is the latest one, what is the patch version in our previous session.
No, SDK.
Yeah, SDK is, that is what I'm saying now. This is
When
the
I check in
SDK.
my system, it's showing like 7.0.203.
See, that doesn't matter at all because see, so while you are installing the Visual Studio, what is the latest patch? See, this is the major version, this is the minor version, and this is the patch number, right? So there is on this is the 7th major version, and they have provided some fixes, right? And that fixes is nothing but this patch number. So you are seeing like this. Right? So it doesn't matter at all. Today it is showing 3.0.6, right? If you see Visual Studio installer, right? If you see Visual Studio installer, sometimes some new will be installed, right? In that case, you can modify, update all these things, right? It doesn't matter at all whether it is 3.0.6 or something like this. So you need to keep focus on the major part. This is major version, this is minor, and this is the patch number. Patch number means what now? Whenever there is some bug fixes, they will give a fix and they will rename that this fix number is like this, right? Like the way we are hosting our application, right? Whenever we are hosting our application, right, we are also creating the release note, right? In the release note, we are mentioning that this is a major release, this is a minor release, or this is just a bug fixes, right? If it is a major release, what is the release number? If it is a minor release, what is the release number? If the bug fixes, what is the number? Right? The way we are preparing the release note while we are hosting our while we are redeploying or deploying our application, it is same to like our deployment only, right? Doesn't matter, right? Whatever the latest patch number or the version number at that time while you are installing, that will be installed. So currently, as I install, this is the latest one. Right now, I'm going to show you what is the difference, how you can install this 6.0. Right. So to install, what you can see.
Sir, one doubt.
Yeah. Yes.
For .NET Core, we don't have like a separate SDK for different versions.
Yeah, we have a
Uh,
separate SDK for different version. That is what I'm going to show you now.
While installing the Visual Studio Code,
No,
Visual Studio.
while installing the Visual Studio, it will only install the latest one, right? If you want to install older one, then you need to go to this site. See, currently download 6.0. I'm going to download 6.0, right? So you can see what are the different versions of a 6.0. So preview is there, right? 6.1 security patch is there, right? And what is the current one? 6.0, right? So that is what I'm going to download this one, right? So when I install at that time, what was the latest one? The latest one is 6.0.410, right? And what is this one? 410, now it is 412. That means the time when I prepare this document and the time when I'm in current date, right, there are some differences, right? From 6.0.410 and this is 6.0.412 because they are providing support. As they are providing support, right, any bug fixes, they will immediately fix the bug and they will release the new SDK, right? So similarly, if you want to download the .NET Framework 5.0, right, you can go like this. This is .NET Framework 5.0, but this is out of the support, right? The release has reached end life, so meaning it is no longer supported. We recommended moving to supported release such as .NET 7.0, right? So you can see that they are clearly saying this is already the support is end. So you can see 7.0, 7.0.9, this is the one. And here you can see 7.0. See what is the version number? SDK 7.0.35. What version it is doing? 7.0.36, right? 36 means you can see the latest one. 36. This is the latest one, 7.0.36. And this latest one will be installed whenever you install Visual Studio, right? And if you want to install any older version, you can go here and you can start installing here by right clicking. So suppose you want to install on Windows operating system or Mac operating system or Linux operating system, then you can choose. Suppose in my Windows operating system I want to install, then I can click. So based on the operating right on my machine it is 64-bit operating system, so I can click on this X64, right? So now I'm going to install 6.0. So what you need to do, you can go here, you can select this X64 and you can see this is the SDK and this is the ASP.NET Core runtime. What you want to install? I want to install SDK. So you can then what operating system you have? I have Linux operating system. You can use this installer or you can use this binary file. Installer or binary file. So similarly, Windows installer, Windows binary file. Binary files means that they are going to install from the internet, and in this case, it is directly going to be downloaded into your machine. You can get this file and you can install any other operating system also, right? In this case, it will be download on the internet at the same time. And runtime means you only want to run your .NET Core application, then you can use this .NET Core runtime, right? This is ASP.NET Core runtime for running the what kind of application? For running the web application. And this is the desktop runtime. And what kind of application? For desktop application, it is going to run the application, right? So here you can select the SDK and here you can click on this to download. But for Windows operating system, instead of doing all these things, what I can do, you can directly go to this place and you can directly start downloading the SDK. Right, so you can see .NET 7.0, .NET 6.0. Just click on this .NET SDK X60.0. It will download the .NET Framework 6.0. Right. So once it download the .NET Framework 6.0, it will show you the screen. So what is the screen saying? Run the installer, verify the installer, get started. So how to run the installer? Just double click on the exe file, whatever you downloaded. The screen will come. And here it will ask you to click on this install button. So once you click on the install button, then it will install the .NET SDK, right? What .NET SDK install? As you are installing SDK, so it will automatically install the runtime. So .NET runtime, ASP.NET Core runtime, Windows desktop runtime. So all the runtimes are required and all the runtimes are get installed into your machine, right? And then you can validate, and for validation purpose, we know how to do. So just type .NET, it will give you the list of commands. And once it gives the list of command, right, then another command is there, right? Info command. So this info command will give, we have seen this help command, SDK runtime, and this info command, it is basically going to give you the information, right? Information about what? About all the SDKs that are about your machine, right? Suppose I type this. So you can see it is saying .NET SDK latest version is this one. What operating system? Windows operating system. What is the version platform? Right? What version of SDK latest one is this one? What is the architecture? Means it is 64-bit of operating system. What are all the SDK installed on your machine? Means this is the list of installed SDK. These are the installed runtimes, right? For each SDK, there are 3 runtimes. If you look at this, uh, right? If you look at this, sir, for each SDK, there are 3 runtime installed. And similarly, if you can imagine, I'm having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 15 runtimes should be there, right? And these are nothing but some environment variable you have not set, right? You can download .NET SDK from here. If you want to know more about .NET SDK, you can go to this widget. You can visit this website, right? So this is how you can download and install .NET SDK and .NET runtime along. Even though you can also install the same using Visual Studio, right? If you are installing Visual Studio latest version, the latest SDK is going to be installed. If you want to install any particular version, then just go to the URL, select the version, whatever you want to install, click on it, it will download. Just double click on it, it will open the screen. Just click on the install button, that's it. And then you can verify using this .NET command. You are having 4 options: /s/help. It will give you all the information, right? How you are going to create the .NET Core application. Info means it will give you the system information. It will give you the .NET SDK information, runtime information, what operating system, what is the architecture of the operating system, 64-bit, 32-bit, what bit operating, all the information. List of SDK, it will give you the list of SDKs installed into your machine. List runtime, it will give you all the runtime installed into your machine. For each application, for each SDK, 3 runtime is there. One is a .NET Core, one is ASP.NET Core, another one is desktop runtime, right? So these are the things, right? So 3 runtime, why? Because we can create Windows services, we can create desktop applications, we can create ASP.NET web applications. So for each different kind of application type, you are having different runtime. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Yes, sir.
Right. So next, what we need to install? We need to install Visual Studio Code, right? Because at some point of time, I'm going to show you .NET Core CLI, right? So currently, you can see if I write right CLS .NET info, right? So, well, right? So you can see here I'm having some SDK commands, right? So at some point in time, I'm going to use these SDK commands to develop the application and to see whatever the code is created and all these things. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code. So we should know how to download and install Visual Studio Code, right? This is the lightweight version of our, what I can say, Visual Studio. So using this Visual Studio Code, you can't get all the features whatever you are getting from Visual Studio, but still many non .NET people, right? Suppose someone developing some kind of Angular application, React application, right? They are using this Visual Studio Code, and this is completely free. You do not need to do anything. Just click on this download button, or you can click on here, and that's it. It will download the SDK, right? So for example, I click here. So once you click on this download button, then it will ask you where you want to install. You want to install in Debian Ubuntu operating system, Red Hat Fedora operating system, Mac operating system, or Windows operating system. Based on the operating system, you just need to click. So I just click on this Windows operating system. You can see one exe is going to be downloaded. So once this exe is downloaded, what you need to do, you just need to click on this. So I'm going to cancel this one because I already installed Visual Studio Code on my machine. So once you click on this, right, that exe, it will open the screen. It will ask to accept the license agreement. So you just need to click on this radio button where you need to accept the license agreement and then click next. Then it will show you where you want to install Visual Studio Code. So if you want, you can go with the default location, right? That is C users or whatever the default location. Even though if you want, you can change the default location to a different drive, right? You want to install this on the D drive. That is also possible. Just click on this browse button and then you need to select the location where you need to install. And once you select and click on this next button, right? Once you click on the next button, then it will show you what is the shortcut name, right? In the menu, right? I'm going to search this using Visual Studio Code. So you can see the name is Visual Studio Code. Then click on the next button, right? You want to create a desktop icon. If you want to create a desktop icon, click on this create a desktop icon button checkbox, so that it will create an icon on your desktop. Double click on the icon, and you have to check this one, restart cells, right? So once you check this one, then it will allow you to restart the Visual Studio Code immediately after installation. Then click on the next button. Once you click on the next button, it will give you this screen. Here you just need to click on the install button, and once you click on the install button, it will install Visual Studio, whatever the location you have specified, at whatever the folder name you have specified, and whether it is going to create the desktop application, and it will add all the path required, I mean the shell script to the required path or not, right? You should mention this if you want to develop Angular, or if you want to use NPM, right? Then you need to check this icon, right? Once you have gone this, just click on the install button, and that's it. It will install the Visual Studio Code, and then once successfully installed, you will get this screen. Here you just need to click on the finish button, and that's it. So once you finish this, you will see Visual Studio Code, right? Like this. So this is Visual Studio Code. Click on this, and this is the screen you will get. So here you can also develop the .NET Core application. Not only .NET Core application, Angular application, React application, so other kind of application. Even though Spring Boot, Spring Hibernate, Java people, they are also using this tool rather than using Eclipse and Hibernate. Clear, guys?
So checkbox is required only when we want to develop the Angular or React application, right? This one,
Yes. Yes. Right. So once you install this one, next what we want to install, we want to install SQL Server, right? So we want to install SQL Server. So why? Because we are not develop. See, we can hardcode the data while developing the application, but in real time, whenever we are going to work with real time application, we never hardcode the data. We need to interact with the database. And in this course, I'm going to use SQL Server as our backend database. So using SQL Server, we are going to perform the database CRUD operation. So for that purpose, we need to install SQL Server, and we are going to install the latest version of the SQL Server. So what you need to do, you just go to the browser, search for download SQL Server 2022. Whatever the first link will come, just click on that link, right? So you can see this is the link. So once you click on this link, right, you will get this screen. Otherwise, okay, let me close this windows, right? Otherwise, you can also directly visit this link which I am provided. This link is nothing but the same link here you can see. So try SQL Server on premises on the cloud. So we are not going to install the SQL Server on any production server or on the cloud. So as you are not going to do these things, right? So we do not need these three options, right? So SQL Server on Azure, SQL Server on Edge, SQL Server on premise. So these are not required for us. So what we need to do, we need to download a pre-specialized edition, because we are going to use for our own purpose, right? One purpose in the sense, or just for a development purpose, just for a learning purpose, we are going to use. So for that purpose, we are having two options. You are going to right? So you can see here we are having two options. One is a developer and one is another Express. So what is this? SQL Server 2022 Developer is a full-featured free edition licensed for use as a development and test database in a non-production environment. And what is this? This is also free edition of SQL Server, ideal for development and production for desktop web and small server applications, right? So what it means, if you are having a small server user to want to test, right, development, then you can go with Express. But I'm going with this developer because it is a fully feature, means of whatever feature required, right? SSS, SSRS, SSIS, right? Database engine, everything you will get if you are using this one. Even though, and if you are using this one, this is you will not get all the information, right? This is only for a development on and production for a desktop. web and small server application. So even though if you use this one, that is also fine, but I'm going to use this one. So you just need to click on this download now button, right? And if you are trying to install on Linux Docker operating system, then you need to choose this one, right? And for Windows, you can choose this one, right? So once you click on this install download now button, one exe is going to be generated. And once the exe is going to be generated, then once you click on this exe, these three options will come. But before that, what I need to tell you, right? So this is the exe, right? Once you open the exe, it will ask, do you want to allow, right? And then you will get this information. Click on this one, right? So just click on this one, right? So this is what I have already installed. Let me tell you all these things step by step. If you don't want, okay, that is done. So we have it. So here you can see we are getting three options like this one, right? So previous. So here we are getting three options. What are these options? So basic, custom, and a download media. So you just want to use the, you just want to perform the basic, select, write, insert, update operation. You can go with basic. Custom means whatever required you can customize, and download media means it will download the physical files, right? Set of files, and you can install them later on your machine or on a different machine. So in this case, it will download from the internet immediately. And in this case, it will download the files into your machine. And from your machine, you can install it on the same machine. Even you can take them and install on different machine also. So in this case, right, I'm going to use this download media option. And once I click on this download media option, it will open this screen, right? And here you can see what format you want. I want the complex version of the set of files. So you have to select this CAV file. You have to select the language as English, on which language you want to install the software, right? Going further, you can see everything will be in the English language. At what location you want to download the set of files, right? I want to download the set of files in C. You just run a download folder, right? You have to select the folder and then click on the download button. Once you click on the download, once the set of files is downloaded, right, then you will see this open folder option, right? And if you open this one, see download, right? So you can see SQL Server, this option, right? This one and this one. These two you will get. And once you get, you just need to double click on this SQL Server 2022 dev to start installing, right? So once you double click on this, right? Once you double click on this, one screen will come where you want to extract the files, right? So I want to extract the files inside this particular folder, and once you extract, then you will get these things, right? So in my system, the folder should be there within this location, right? So it will extract all the files into your particular folder, right? So once you extract the files, right, what a set of files into your particular folder, right, then you can start to develop, you can start installing, right? So once it is extracted, then you will see this window will come. So not only it will extract the files to this particular folder, but also it will open this SQL Server installation center window. For example, right, for example, let me download, go to this particular, just click on this one. I and another instance already running, right? So you can see I download this one, I open this one, right? I download this one. So it will take some time to download, and once download is successful, it will ask you open the folder. So once I open this folder, it will ask me this. So what's saying another instance of this application is already running. Why it is mean? What it means? It means already in my machine this is running, SQL Server 2022 is running, so I cannot install the same again. So but if you are installing for the first time, right, then you will get this window. So in this window you need to select this installation. After selecting this installation, then what you need to do? You want to install a new SQL Server instance. So as you want to, once you select this, then you need to select this one, new SQL Server installation. Once you click on this, right, then it will open this installation rules window. So installation rules in the sense, it will ask you, right, whether all the required dependency softwares are installed on your machine or not. Whatever minimum required, those are available on your machine or not. If it is available, then just click on the next button. Once you click, see this firewall warning is fine. You can ignore this warning, and then you just need to click on the next button. Once you click on the next button, then it will ask you this: perform a new installation of SQL Server 2022, or you want to add a new features, add features to an existing. I don't want to add a new features to an existing one. Rather, I want to use this one. So you just need to click perform a new installation of a SQL Server 2022. Once you select this radio button, click on the next button. So once you click on the next button, then it will ask you what you want to install. You want to install developer or express what version. So as of now, we have only two options as of now for free. One is a developer and a express. So as I mentioned, express means what? You will only get some basic feature. Developer means what? You will get all the features. So I'm selecting this developer edition, and then as you are installing this developer, you do not need to give any kind of license key. Nothing is required, and you just need to click on the next button. Once you click on the next button, then it will ask you to accept the license, right? The license means until and unless you are not accepting the license of a SQL Server, you cannot install. So just check this checkbox, click on the next button. Once you click on the next button, then this screen will come here. It will ask you Azure function for SQL Server, right? So basically, do you want to install this into the Microsoft Azure? No, I don't want to use. So for that purpose, by default, this checkbox will be selected as your extension for SQL Server. So you just need to click on this, or you just need to uncheck this checkbox. So once you uncheck this, it will you will see all these text boxes will be invisible, right? Uneditable, you can say, read only, you can say also. So once you uncheck this, then you need to click on the next button. So once you click on the next button, then it will ask you what are the features you want to install. Features in the sense, say, do you want to install SSAS, SSRS, SSIS, right? Or you only want to install database engine for to develop run on database. So as per your requirement, you can select all, you can select specific. And for my requirement, database engine is enough. So I just select this checkbox database engine, and that's it. Once you select the database engine, even though you can also select all, but guys, remember, based on the number of feature you selected, right, then the space is going to be increased, right? The memory space is going to be increased. And here you can see it is clearly saying this space MB is required in your C drive and how much space is available in your C drive. And once you select the feature, whatever you want to install, then what you need to do, you need to click on the next button. So once you click on the next button, then what will happen? This screen will come, and here you can see there are two instance, default instance, name instance. So if you are installing SQL Server for the first time, you can select this default instance. But if you already have a SQL Server with a default instance, as in my case, I've already installed SQL Server 2019, and I'm going to install the SQL Server 2022. So in that case, and whenever I install 2019, at that time I have used the default instance. So I cannot use the same default instance with 2022. So in that case, I'm selecting this named instance. Even though if you are installing for the first time, you can also select this named instance. And once you select this named instance, then you need to give a name to your SQL Server instance. So what name I'm providing here? SQL Server 2022 temp. This is nothing but your instance ID of your SQL Server. So currently, if you look at the SQL Server, currently, if you look at my services, right? If you go down the services window, then you will see SQL Server 2 instances is running on my machine. What are the instances? One is MS SQL Server. This is the default instance. Whenever I install 2019, I have provided this name MS SQL Server. And you can also see SQL Server tab, SQL Server 2022 tab. And this instance name is nothing but the name what you provided while installing your SQL Server, right? You can see SQL Server 2022 tab. So once you provide this name, that name will become the instance ID. You do not need to provide this instance ID explicitly. Whatever name you given to your SQL Server instance, that will become the instance ID. Once you provide the instance ID, then you don't need to click on the next button. So once you click on the next button in this screen, you do not need to do anything, right? Whatever is there, just go with the default setting, just click on the next button. And once you click on the next button, then it will ask you, right, what kind of authentication you want to provide to your instance, SQL Server instance. You want to go with Windows authentication only, so that anyone who log in to your system using their Windows credential, they can access your machine. Or do you want to provide a mixed mode authentication? Mixed mode means using the Windows credential, I can access. Using the SQL Server authentication, I can also access. So I'm going with both mixed mode. I'm going to use both authentication, right? Even though if you are going with Windows authentication, that is also fine, right? But I'm going with mixed mode because I'm learning and I'm explaining SQL Server context, SQL admin concept, right? For that purpose, how to create a user, how to update the password of a user, how to create a user with some limitation, validation, some constant applying. For that purpose, you need to use mixed mode. So I'm selecting the mixed mode, but while you are selecting the mixed mode, you need to provide the default password, right? So here you can give any password, you have to remember the password, and here you need to use the add current user to whoever the user currently login, whoever the user installing this instance. I want that user to be the admin, right? For that purpose, you need to click on this add current user. Once you click on this add current user, then you can see currently this is my server name /Pranay. Pranay means I'm logging to this server. So I become the admin of this SQL Server instance. And then you just need to click on the next button, right? Once you click on the next button, then this screen will come. And here it is saying that these are the things. This is the summary of your installation. What is the name of the ID? What is the space it is going to take, right? What are the feature you have selected? All these things is going to be shown. And then you just need to click on this install button, which is going to install SQL Server into your machine, right? Once you have it will take some time to install. And once the installation is completed, you will get this successful message and just close it. Once you have done this, your SQL Server is installed. But you have only installed SQL Server, but how we are going to communicate with this SQL Server? For that purpose, we need to install SSMS. Clear, or anybody having any doubt?
Sir, like, why can't we go with the basic installation, and why are we going with
Anyone,
me?
anyone you can go, right? So as I
Oh,
mentioned, in this case there is no need. So if you are going with basic also, that is fine, right? So what is saying, select basic installation type to install SQL Server database engine feature with the default configuration, right? And in this case, what will happen? In this case, if you select, then it will download the files immediately from internet and it will start installing. In this case, download media means what? Now it will download the files into my machine, and I can take this. What I can say, I can take those files from one machine to another machine. In another machine, also I can go and install. So in this case, it will immediately install. In this case, it will download the file. So anyone you can, even though you can also customize your installation. In this case, it will install with default configuration. In this case, you can configure the installation. And in this case, we are downloading the file, and as per our requirement, we are installing. Clear?
yeah,
Yes.
sir. Thank
So
One
one more
question.
question. Here, actually, you selected cab option. So what is the
Yes.
meaning of that?
So see, whenever you are downloading the files, right? So in this case, the required, see, in this case, I have selected download media. Once you select the download media, it will download the file from the internet, .exe, the box, whatever required to for SQL Server. Those are going to be downloaded in the compressed version. So for that purpose, I'm using compressed. And if you want to use uncompressed, then you have to use ISO. So you know what is compressed and uncompressed?
Compress mean, is it a zip file kind of, or?
Yes, yes. Means it will means what I can say. See, whenever there is a concept in .NET minification, bundling and minification. Minification, Okay, fine. So basically, it will reduce the size. That's it.
Okay.
And
But I
here,
have, if when I check the size, then 1109 is the uncompressed version, but compressed
so
version is having a larger size than.
see, this is not for this file download, but while installing, it will take more time, more space. So you want to install in the complex mode or uncomplex mode. That is what it means. So size is going to be same. You are going to download from the internet. The size here 1109 MB, here 1176. But while installing, it will check. I want to install in the complex mode or in the uncomplex mode. So based on that, it is going to take more time, more size or less size.
Okay, got it.
Right? So this is how, but with this installation, you cannot use your SQL Server because to interact with the SQL Server, we need a client tool, or you can say we need an interface using which we need to communicate with the database. And for that purpose, what we are going to do, we are going to use SSMS. So we need to also install SSMS. So SQL Server Management Studio. So for that purpose, I'm going to install SSMS, and installing SSMS is very easy. So you just need to type SSMS SQL Server 2020 to search this one. First download link you will get. You can click on that download link. Even though you can directly go to this URL, whatever I'm provided here.
Good morning. Good morning.
Who is saying that good
नहीं
morning?
मेरा एक सेशन चल रहा है.
What is this one? Right? So once you go to this window, you will get this one. You can say SQL Server 2022 is selected because this is the latest version of SQL Server, and you can say download SQL Server Management Studio. And guys, remember, you do not need to download different SSMS for different what I can say SQL Server. One SSMS can be integrated with any kind of a SQL Server database. So currently, what you just need to do, you just need to click on this free download for SQL Server Management Studio. So once you click on this button, right, it will start downloading, right? So once you click on this, it will start downloading. One exe is going to be download. Once the exe is downloaded, it is something between 6 to 700 MB, right? Once the exe is downloaded, you just need to click on it, or you can double click on it, right? So once you double click on it, this window is going to become, so it will ask you where you want to install. So if you want to go with the default location, that is fine. If you want to change, that is also fine. You can change the location where you want to install. And here he is saying, if you are installing means you are agreeing with the acknowledgement. You are agreeing with the license agreement of SSMS. It is not giving you additional checkbox where you need to select the checkbox then install. So directly if you are installing means you are agreeing with the license. So once you click on the install button, it will start installing the SSMS, and once the installation is completed, you will get this screen, and that's it. You can close the screen like this. So once the installation is completed, you will get this window, right? Suppose if you search SSMS, then this window will come, that SQL Server Management Studio. Once you click on the SQL Server Management Studio, so it will open this window, right? So before communicating with the database, you need to make sure your database server is running, right? Currently, you can see this is running. You can also stop the server, right? Stop, start, restart, pause. So all this option is there. If the database is not in the running status, you cannot communicate with the database. So what is my database? SQL Server 2022 dev. And what is other database? MS SQL Server. Now, if you want, you can connect it to this database. If you want, you can connect to this database also, right? So how I can communicate? So for that purpose, so once you open the SSMS, this window will come. So once this window will come, then you need to select the server. Server means on which database you want to communicate. So currently you can see this SQL Server 2022 dev is selected because previously I have used it database. If you are using for the first time, then what you need to do? So you can see there is a drop down list. Right, just click on this drop down list, and there is a browse button. Once you click on the browse button, it will open the browse for servers, right? Whatever the database engines are installed on your machine, all the list you will get. So you will get like this, and here you can see this is the plus item. Just click on this. On my machine, currently, I'm having this is one server and this is another server. So this is nothing but your default instance, right? As I mentioned, default, the 2019 instance, and this is the SQL Server 2022. So you want to use this one? Click OK. That will be selected. No, I don't want to use one now. I want to use the other instance. So select this one. Click OK. As I mentioned, you can communicate with both Windows authentication and SQL Server authentication. But we have not created any user for a SQL Server. First, you need to communicate. First, you need to log in as an admin. Huh. And then you can create the user. So currently you can say I'm selected Windows authentication. Apart from Windows authentication, SQL Server is there. For example, you create one login and password for a particular user. That user can log into this server by using its login name and a password. Now I'm going to log in with Windows authentication. Select this one and click on the OK button. So once you click on the OK button, that you can see we are connected with the SQL Server instance which we just installed, and that name we have given SQL Server this, right? And this is the database folder. Here you can see one database is where I have created this database and all these things you will find. So this is how you need to install SSMS and how you need to communicate with the SQL Server database. All the steps are mentioned here. Clear, guys? Okay.
Yeah, clear, sir.
Hello. Does it install
Yes.
any default database like
No,
TempDB or
yes, those you will find here, right? If you open the system database, you will see master, model, MSDB, and TempDB. These are the default database. And I'm not
apart
going to
from that?
explain. I'm not going to explain what is master, what is model, what is
No,
MSDB, what is temp.
Apart from that, any North DB or any
No. That you want to install. That you want to install, right? For example, if you want to install Northern database, right? That you need to install separately, right? So if you
in
go,
earlier version,
I have already
it was installing by default.
no. So if you want to use Northern database, then you need to go Avenger Worst database and you need to install like this,
So we
right?
have to install separate setup for that, right?
Yes. You need to install them separately. You can't install them directly, right? And coming to your point, whatever the software requirement, you can require this. SQL Server require minimum of 6 GB available hard disks. So what is the monitor is required minimum 816 higher resolution. Internet speed is required. 512 MB at least is it required. All other edition 1 GB, right? Recommended is 1 GB. At least 4 GB is required, right? Express edition, it is talking for the express edition and all other edition, right? Express
For
is the for developer you
require
need
1
at
GB.
least at least
1
1
GB.
GB. And 4 GB RAM is at least required. For express edition 1 GB is required. For processor this is required, and you can use any processor, any operating system, Internet.NET framework must be installed, right? So these are the things. So once you have SQL Server SMS is ready, then what you need to do, we need to download and install two tools. One is Postman, another one is Fiddler. Because at some point of time, we are going to develop ASP.NET Core Web API. For Web API, we need to test the API. For testing purpose, we need to use Postman and Fiddler, right? What is Postman? It is a client tool. That tool is basically used to test RESTful services, right? And this tool providing many features like OAuth authentication, bulk uploading, importing, right? Load testing, all the different kind of functionality you can test using this Postman tool. So what you need to do, you just need to go to this link and just download the Postman app, right? So
Also,
once
can
you
use a Shop UI,
sorry,
sir? Can we
see
use Shop?
so there are thousands of tools are available. I'm going to use the one which are mostly used in the industry, which provides most of the functionality on which people are more acquainted. Why I'm saying Postman? Postman means it is easy to use tool, right? Most of the developer, most of the tester, right? We are developer. We can directly test in the Visual Studio, right? But what about the tester? What about the UI team? What about the what I can say the BA team who are giving uh, who are communicating with the client, right? For that purpose, this Postman is the best one. Fiddler is the best one. Apart from this two, any third-party tool you want, you can use. But I'm going to show you the use using these two tools, right? So you can install here. While installing, it will ask you for your login credential, right? So click on this. Once you install it, it will ask you for your login credential. Just give your username and password. That's it. Once it installs, right, then you can see Postman app is there. Right, so using this Postman app, you can test the services. You can provide the URL, right? So you can provide the everything, right? So you can see
We can generate JSON file here also.
everything, all things are possible, right? So you can provide the URL, what type of a request is this, right? You can set the authorization parameter, request header, body, right? You will see this body. You are not seeing this body currently because it is a GET request. If you are passing some body, you have to make it as a post request, right? So you can pass the form data, you can pass some image file, raw file, binary file, everything. All these things are possible here, right? Apart from that, another tool what I'm going to use in our course is Fiddler. So this is a very interesting and very good tool. Why I'm saying, because this will capture the proxy, right? Whoever accessing your server, right? Whoever browsing your internet, everything is going to be captured by this tool called Fiddler. Even though you can also test the RESTful services using this Fiddler tool, right? So what you need to do, just go to this Fiddler or you can say this link, and once you visit this link, right, you just need to provide it some information, right? Why you are going to download this one, for what purpose you are going to download this one, right? Why do you plan to use Fiddler? So you want to analysis, gaming, website development. So I'm going for website development and debugging purpose. So for front testing or security testing, anything, right? So I'm selecting this one. You can give your right, you can give your email ID. Right, so you can give your email ID, right? So once you give the email ID, then you need to select from which country you are belonging to. Once you provide this information, click on this button, check this checkbox and download for Windows, right? And once you download this, right, then it will, yeah, and then you need to install it. Just double click on the exe. That's it. Once you install, then you can start using Fiddler. So how the Fiddler screen is look like? So if you open the Fiddler Classic, right, this is the Fiddler screen, right? And now suppose I'm doing this one SQL Server DBA tutorial. So I'm just making these things, right? Now if you come to here, then it will capture all the request. So whatever the request, right, for which server, you can see this is the .NET tutorials.net, right? This server is there. Double click on it. So you can see all the information it is giving to us. What are all these things that we will see once we started discussing and started developing our ASP.NET Core Web API. What is request? What is response? What is header? Right? How you can put the request? How you can enable HTTPS? How you can disable HTTPS? All these things we are going to discuss in detail once we start discussing the what I can say ASP.NET Core Web API, right? So with this, our environment setup is ready. So we have installed the required software, whatever required, right? I have shown you how to install Visual Studio Code. I have shown you .NET Core CLI, right? .NET Core CLI in the sense, I have shown you the SDK command, right? SDK command means these are nothing but your .NET Core CLI command. Using this command, you can start developing your .NET Core applications, right? We have installed .NET SDK. I have shown you how to install the, so by default, whenever you install Visual Studio, right, it will install the latest version. If you want to install an earlier version, then how you can install, that is what I have shown you. We have installed ASP.NET Core. For example, using Visual Studio, so what I can say, using this, right, while installing the Visual Studio, or then at that time I have shown you that you need to make sure that ASP.NET and web development checkbox should be selected. This is required to develop ASP.NET Core web application. Then we have I will show you how to use NuGet and packages in our upcoming session, but these are automatically available right into your Visual Studio. I have shown you how to install SQL Server because we are going to work with SQL Server database, and so I have also shown you how to download and install SSMS because using this SSMS tool, right, that is the client tool, I can communicate with the Microsoft SQL Server database, and then I have shown you how to use how to download and install Postman and Filler. Once we started discussing the ASP.NET Core WebAPI, at that time only I'm going to use these two tools. Apart from this, any additional third-party tools you want, like Git, TFS, we'll see how to integrate Swagger, right? I will also take one class related to Git. I will show you how you can use Swagger to generate the API documentation, right? Later, in our upcoming sessions, right, I will discuss how to use XUnit, MSTech, Inuit, right? So once we progress, then we will discuss all these things. So with this, our environment setup is ready. And from tomorrow onwards, we are going to start developing our ASP.NET Core application. Any question from anyone? They can ask me now. I'm going to
Sir,
stop the.
if we have already